Alright, let's look at this rook endgame from the game Ems Riemersma 1993. In the game, black played rook a1, missing a winning chance. This allows white to establish the Vancura defense. First of all, rook g5 does few things. Gets out of this skewer here, so black can trade rooks and just win with the extra pawn here. Second of all, if you still keep an eye on the pawn, which makes the black's rook stuck in front of it, so you can't free it without dropping it. While checking does nothing, since we attack the rook, it has to go back. And third of all, it establishes a lot of checks from the side in front of our king, which is always important, or the point of the Vancura defense. Whenever the pawn goes forward, now the king is protecting the pawn, so the rook's again threatening to free itself. We have to check the king off the protection. Black has few options here. Let's see that the king c2. Think we check it few times, and maybe here we can go to the side. Our king is a little unfortunately situated, a little too high. It wants to be on h2. But at this moment, I think a3 we can check again, have the sideways control against the pawn, and then we can improve our king. So this is not a threat, since we can now swing under the pawn, and there's no check tricks against the king since we came to the second rank. And if the king comes here, we just establish the other checking distance now, and there's no longer hole in front of the pawn for the king to hide in. So this is easy to hold. Whenever the king touches the pawn, we check it off and then go back, controlling the pawn and the rook in front of it. And yeah, here again, this is the basic Vancura defense now. The king touches the pawn. Now we do the same, but from the side. There's no shelter for the king. It has to run away. And then we can do, well, we can keep checks here, but at some point we can move the rook here to cover the pawn from the side, and again it goes forward. We do not come to the side. Here it's obviously gonna fail to check and promotions, and then you have to, it's not the easiest win for the queen, but it's a win nonetheless. Alright, so after rook a1, pawn push, check. This is maybe a trickier one. Again, the pawn is not attacked, so the rook's threatening to, we have to keep checking. And now black defends the pawn again. We keep checking. And here, trying to be sneaky about it with c6. Again, we have to keep checking. We kind of want to have the king quite far away, because our king is a little bit misplaced on here. So it might not, we have to establish different defensive setup at some point. For instance, we have a check here, we push the king further back. And maybe this is far enough, I think, for the black king to be. We can now improve our king without having the control of the pawn. Of course, if the pawn now goes here, it's you can just come here to cover it, no problems. But at this moment, black can now probably swing the rook to the side. And again, going from the side defense doesn't work. Now black wins, because you have this, well, you can go here, but you can maybe check first and then even bring the pawn further down. Bring the king here, and this is too far. Attacking our rook. And let's say king b4. A rook can swing somewhere, and king can't approach anymore. And checks fail to some kind of a king a3. King b2. King c1. Threatening to promote. You give it check. And check. Eventually black will block the checks. And next promote. No mating threats here, since we can promote and make a square here for the king. But yeah, here rook swings here. We can now swing the rook under the pawn. black gets to the side. And now we can bring the king closer. Okay, this king is cut off here, so it has to run here to improve. And now we can bring the king closer. And here, here, here. Looks like black made a progress here, but now we can still bring the king closer and closer. And then, for instance, check, check, check. Do we get the king close enough? Can push the king in front of the pawn. Well, if you block with the check rook, white just takes and gets into the corner easily. So black king has to go into the front of the pawn. And then we just keep our rook here. If black tries to improve the pawn, we can just let it happen. We don't care. Eventually they have to go here, but our king got close enough that we can cover the king or keep the king prisoned even with the king, even if the black frees the or gets rid of our rook in front of the pawn. But this is one of those setups you can't get out of. White's gonna move the king around here or the rook around somewhere. Well, in the game, this happened in the game. The winning move here was rook a3, getting out of them. Well, this still covers this, but now there is a discovered check. For instance, if white would play rook g5, trying to keep an eye on this guy and try to establish the side checks here. Black can come here, defend the pawn with check, bang. And now, whenever the move where the white king moves, now with the rook gets to swing to the side, and now it's gonna be easy streets for the pawn to promote. Something like this, but eventually it's gonna fail. Can come here, and now you try to swing to the side, but it's too late because the rook's no longer contained to the back rank. Let's say here and here. Well, now I have to still dodge a lot of checks, but the pawn will promote eventually. So here, rook here, any other move doesn't really do anything either. Let's say king goes somewhere like g2. You can now push the pawn. And again, same thing happens. White's gonna give a check. You come here, they go here, and we go forward with the same trick again. Doesn't give any time for the rook to improve, since we can now check and again threaten to always free the rook. So bestest they can do is check, attack the pawn. Rook can go to e1 again, threatening this guy. Well, say you go here. Rook b2, king b2 check, and then we free the pawn with the rook c1. If you check now, we block and win. Yeah, in the game, rook a1 was played. And white missed the rook g5 drawing. Instead, they went king g2, getting out of this, but now the problem is that the pawn goes forward and it's not attacked. And your king is clumsy. If you check, the king goes here, and now it's shielded by white king. Black's just ready to go forward. Oh, if this happens, then we can free the rook, since the pawn is not attacked. If you attack the pawn, this goes forward again. And you don't have time to establish the side defense, because now the rook's ready to go and free itself. And checking from this side doesn't do anything. Can hide here. And this king is way too far away from here to establish any kind of a prison for black king. So in the game, after king g2, a4 was played, and a king started to come closer. Black played a3, rook b5. Here black went hiding in front of the pawn. This would have also been the fastest to win, because now white king has gotten away from these two squares. We attack the rook, and now they don't have time to establish the defense here. Here the pawn is protected, so the rook's threatening to run away. If you check us away, now you don't have time to play this and that, which you need to hold this. You do either one. You go here, black can just go here, for instance, or even check and promote that way. But why go for a queen versus rook when you don't have to? And if you go under the pawn, then there is the old skeweroni here. You win the pawn, but you lose the rook. Anyways, the king went under the pawn. The white king tried to get closer, but it's not in time. Black frees the rook, frees the king in front of the pawn. And now king b2. Few checks. But now we block with the rooks. That's not longer contained. a2. And just king b3. Threatening to go here and promoting. So white resigned. Well, that's a lot of complexity for a really not that complex looking endgame.